We are on Kuf Samach Zayin Amud Beis. On the bottom.
Samach Zayin.
5 lines to the bottom. Hahu Tavra. 5 lines to the bottom. Kuf Samach Zayin Amud Beis.
Got it.
Shachris is at 7. 7 of 5. Sheva. Sheva v'chamesh dakot. Hahu Tavra. They have a chosam Allah Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. Rabbi Yirmiyah, there was a receipt, meaning when a woman gets divorced, she produces a ksuba and she gets paid the amount in the ksuba. But she gets paid the ksuba whether she has the physical ksuba or not. She said, and this woman claimed she lost her ksuba. So the husband says, listen, if I'm going to pay you the ksuba, and then a week later you pop up with the ksuba, I pay you the 200 zuz, you pop up with the ksuba, you'll ask for the ksuba again. I won't have a raya that I paid it already. So she gives him a receipt saying that she paid the ksuba. Rabbi Yirmiyah had signed on such a receipt that a woman had given to a husband had, showing that he had already paid his ksuba. Asya L'kamei, and Rabbi Yirmiyah was one of the signatories on this receipt. Asya L'kamei hahi etzisa. A woman came to Rabbi Yirmiyah. Amra le lava nohavoy. She said, I am not the, the previous Gemara had discussed how you can only write a Tavra in the presence of the woman who is basically the obligate. She's the one who's obliged by this. She's the person who is becomes mechuyev by this receipt. It's to her detriment. You have to sign it in front of her. And she says, I wasn't there. I never asked you to write this receipt. She claims that her ex-husband got some book on the street to go and have written up on his behalf. It said he would be able to avoid paying the ksuba. She said, you got fooled. Some other woman asked you to write this receipt to get my husband out of paying his ksuba. Amar, so he said, Anonami Ami Lahu, Lav Ihi. He said to the other Eidim, Rabbi Yirmiyah said to the other Eidim, you know what? She doesn't look like the person who I wrote a receipt for. I don't remember ever writing this woman a receipt. Amrulay, Mekeshu de Kashala, Bagala Kala. They said to him, no, it is the same woman, but you didn't realize she got older and her voice changed and she just looks different with the passage of time. But it is the same woman that we all wrote a receipt for, a shayva for. Even though he had first said that I don't recognize this woman and therefore gave credence to what she was saying, and now he's saying, he's going along with these other Edom who tell her that maybe you did sign for her, and he's agreeing with that. So Rabbanan lav orchel medik. Rav Yirmiyah was obviously a Talmud Chacham. Talmud Chacham is not expected to be knowledgeable about a woman's appearance. So even if he did see her and he's not sure now, you can't expect him to remember. So his original saying, I don't recognize her, was not very final. And we'll see more about this topic of Sorba Rabbanan. Similar case, Rabbi Yirmiyah was signed on a shayva. Amrulay lav anohavoy. And the woman said, it wasn't me, I didn't bring it to you. Amalah, Ivra, anthavos. He said, no, I recognize it was you. So this time he was very certain about it. Amrabaya avagav d'sum rabbanan lav orchel medik. Even though it's Rabbanan generally doesn't look, even the duck. Since if he did look, then he knows. If he says, I looked and I'm sure it wasn't you, and he's certain about it, then we listen to him. Amra Baya, Haitzum Rabbanon, the Azul Gdushi, it's a Talmud Chacham who's going to be Mekadosh and Isha, Nidaber Imar Ma'aretz Bahadeh. He should bring a Amaretz together with him. Dilma Michlafu Lamine, because otherwise he might not recognize his wife and they'll switch it on him. This is we just had this in the last parsha, right? Yaakov Avinu. How he always wondered about this. What kind of wacky thing is this? That they switched to Simonim. How could they get away with it? But Yaakov Avinu was a Talmud Chacham. He didn't have Amaretz with him. And you think about it, I'm sure by Hasidim, you meet a girl one time and then they get married 8 months later. It would be someone else he wouldn't know. I mean, maybe if he has a picture, probably if he's a Talmud Chacham, he doesn't have a picture either. So he forgets what she looks like. I don't know who, like everyone, I don't know why this Gemara is assuming every shver is like Lavan, that they switched it. And I'm not sure that this is like a common problem of switching the wives. So again, we'll just the Mishnah, all these divrei maskos from the Mishnah leave out the part that we're talking about. Where's the Mishnah? Yeah, we say kaisen get leish alpha pishen ish ta'imer v'hashoy v'leish alpha pishen ba'leimo b'vadsheim machiron v'abal noisen schar. We said the husband is the Mishnah Kuf Samach Zayin Amud Aleph. We said that the husband is the one who has to pay for the cost of writing the get. He pays the cipher to write the get. So Zok the Gemara. V'abal noisen schar. My timer, what's the reason? Why is the Baal responsible? The Amakra, because of a Nasan, that he should write it and he should give it. So that since the Torah puts the ksiva on him, so therefore he has to pay for the writing. But in the delay of din and hachi, and these days, that which we don't do this, shaju rabban naisha kehechidole l'shaya. For the obvious reason that the Chachamim were worried about an aguna. You don't want to make it any harder than necessary for a man to be Megarish Anisha, so we have the woman do it. It must be that this pasuk is an asmachta. I don't think it doesn't seem like this is. Maybe it's a deraisa and the Chacham do say kol mekadesh al das rabbanim mekadesh. It doesn't seem that who writes the get would be included in that. This is maybe it's hefka bez and hefka, the mafker her money. We say that you could write a star for a loiva, meaning a borrower the cipher can write a star and the Adam could sign it, even though the malva isn't with him, and the loiva is the one who pays for the writing of the star. So pshita, it's pashat. It's always the one who benefits who has to pay for the star, right? And a man who's Marsh and Isha was a pasuk, but like we're going to see throughout the Mishnah, whoever is the main beneficiary is the one who pays. So the Chayra Loiva is certainly the beneficiary of Ahalva. We're not talking about someone who's paying ribbis. So this is where it says no. We're not talking about stama loan. We're saying even by an iska, which we've had before, right? There was a chatzi halva and chatzi pikadon, where you have a service partner and you have an investing partner, and the partner who's the investor provides a loan for half of the value of the investment to the partner who's going to do the work, and the partner who does the work then gets the benefit of whatever profit is from that half, and the other half is it's a pikadon, it's the money of the investor, and that's the working partner uses that to make money for the investor. But it's not a simple loan; it's a loan, but the working partner is providing work, and he's providing a profit to the investing partner. So it's not so simple. It's not so clear that the loiva in this case is the one who's benefiting. But the Gemara says even so, by iska, it's the working partner who's also the borrower who has the responsibility of paying for the shtar. We say by a seller. So you write the star for the seller, even though the lekeach is not with him, and the lekeach is the one who pays the star. Because when I buy something, we've always, anyone who has karka, giving up karka is always a tough thing. So the keach is the one who's purchasing is looked on as the one who's benefiting. Even though the one's getting money comes and goes. But your achuza, your karka should be forever. Right? This is the all the good real estate, the real estate billionaires, the way they say they got to be billionaires is because they held on to their karka, they didn't sell it. So tomorrow pshita, so l'chayr it's pashit. We're talking about someone sold his field because it was a bad field. He wanted to sell it and buy a better field. So in that case, it's not necessary. One might think it's not looked upon as the benefit of the lekeach. Even so, the purchaser pays for the shtar. We don't write shtari erison, meaning the money that a husband, a man, a groom obligates himself when they become a Kadesha. So sometimes he'll provide gifts. And we also say Shtari Nesuin. And we said the husband is the one who has to pay for the shtar because overall, consider not PC to say this, but a man is kind of the woman. So he's listen, in a way it's what do you call it? It's a compliment to a woman, right? It's saying that the man is we always say the one who benefits is the one who has the right to shtar. So we're saying the man is the one who benefits in a marriage when they get married. Not only is this a compliment to a woman, Pashat, it's obvious like this. You came in perfect time, Menachem. We're right in the middle of Kuf Samach Chesam and Aleph. We're talking about who pays. So generally, who pays for the shtar depends on who's the beneficiary. So we're asking, it's clear, obvious, that when a man gets married, he's the one who's the beneficiary. He's the one who's coming out on top because he's acquiring a wife. Dr. Gemara, I can't believe there's not like written in a banner on the walls in Lakewood. No, we're talking about a Tzurba Rabban who's getting married. So his shver is very excited that he's getting such a chashuv edim. So he's gonna, maybe in that case, the shver is going to be the one who's going to write it because he's really winning. Usually, a man is the beneficiary, but when he gets a edim at Talmud Chacham, then he's the one who benefits. Zakdamar.
I can't relate, but maybe Lucy can start relating now.
Right. He said, you heard what he said?
No.
He said, now that you married off a daughter, you could relate to this.
Yes.
In case when star erisus v'kablonus, we said you can't when someone writes, and the end of the memra is that you can't write unless they're both there. And when you write a star for someone who's becoming an aris on a piece of land or a kablan where he's going to get paid, he's going to pay a set amount each year. The person who is going on to the land, the sharecropper, is the one who pays for the star because he's the one who's benefiting. Like we said before, he's the one who's getting the land. The land is always the valuable object, and the one who's getting it is the beneficiary. We're talking about a land, a karka that needs to rotate its crops, and it's coming into a year that you're going to have to leave it and not use it. So one might think in such a case, especially he has to pay a set amount each year by a kabbalan, one might think that the landlord is the one who's benefiting. He's not really giving up anything right away. In the beginning, the other person is paying him money and he's not doing anything with his land. Kamashmal, no. The kabbalan and the aris are the ones who pay for the shtar. We said you can't write a shtar birurun except for midash shneim, and we said in the Mishnah that they both pay, they share the cost of the star birurin. Now, Zak Gemara, my story birurin. What is the star birurin? Hacha tirgamu star tanosa. Over here, they focused what the star birurin is. This is a document that was written upon in Bezdin. They would write it when someone came with a din Torah. They would write a star birurin. So it had a couple of things. First of all, it had star tanasa that you would write up if you ever saw a summons or when someone files a lawsuit. The first paragraph is describing what each person is claiming. So there's a star tanasa. It says what each person's taina is, it sets out their claim. Rabbi Amma says the reason why it's called a Shtari Birurin, this document that says what the din Torah is about, is because it also says who's going to pick the dayanim. The way they would do it is, we have this to this day, that when someone enters into a din Torah, each side picks one of the dayanim, and then either the two dayanim pick the third dayan, or they agree on the third dayan. That's why it's called a shtar birur. This document that sets forth what the din Torah is about. So we said one man the Amma said that they both pay for it. You write a shtar birur and they both pay it. Rav Shimon Gamliel Shimon Gamliel disagrees with the Tanakama. He says you don't write one shtar birur, but rather each one writes his taina on a shtar, and obviously his own taina he pays for. And I don't know exactly how I guess they both write on their portion, on their taina, they write the agreement about who their dayan is going to be. So Zakamar Lema B'Koivin Amiduslayim Kamitlabi. Let's say that this machlek is about whether they write one shtar birurin together or they each write individual ones. Depends on the machlekes of Koivin Amiduslayim. In the meantime, these two idiots who are fighting in court and they're writing the stepped stars, they're just duplicating the cost. You write two stepped stars, it's a lot more expensive than writing one. And it doesn't make a difference it's not the shtar birurin doesn't really help anyone to be goiv anything. It's just the documentation of what the din Torah is about. So Mar Savar Kaifin, the Tanakh Kama says, even though each one is insisting, I want to have my own shtar birur, you say, too bad. You're both going to chip in and you're going to get along and you're going to write a shtar and not duplicate the cost. Mar Savar Ein Kaifin. The other one says, no. If one guy is insisting, I want to write for myself, the other guy can't. We don't force him to go to do it together. So Gemara says, no, not necessarily. The Kuli Alma Kaifin. It would really be a case of Kaifin Almi this time where there was nothing to be gained by having separate stars, we would be Kaifin. The reason why Rav Shimon Gamliel says that you do different tainas, the Amalei Nichale the Havis Chusach Gabis Chusi. The Damas Allah Ki Arya Arva. I don't want him to have a copy of my tainas that'll sit on it and he'll think how he can get around it. If he wants to write it down and look at it, let him do so. But I don't want to contribute to making it easier for him to argue his case in court. You're forcing me essentially to make his case. The each per case is like a crouching lion. I don't want that my opponent has in his hand what my taina is. He's going to sit and figure out. He's going to be reading it and look at it and use it to prepare his case, how to fight it. I'll write my thing. He'll write his thing. If he wants to write down what it says, what I said in my tainas, let him write it down. I'm not interested in contributing to that.
And that's not considered me this time?
No, because he's doing it to win his case. We're by the Mishnah Kuf Samach Chesam Al. It might not be the best midas, but he has a reason why he doesn't want to do it. Midas time is the person is doing something and it just causes the other person to lose without any gain on his own part. Look the Mishnah. Misha para mixes chayvay. Someone who paid part of his chayv, right? How does it work in a typical chayv, right? Ruvain borrows money from Shimon, and when he does so, he gives a piece of paper to Shimon saying that I borrowed $100 from you, and then when Reuven pays it back, Shimon gives him the $100 back. What happens if Reuven says that they came to pay it, and Reuven says I haven't got $100, I only have $50. So now you're stuck. If Shimon gives the paper, the star back to Reuven, then Reuven's not going to pay any the other 50. But on the other hand, if Shimon leaves the star for $100 by Reuven could be going the entire 100. He could present it at Bez and take 100. So what they did was hishlish story. They gave the star. Reuven instructed Levi, take the star from Shimon, and if I don't pay you the $50 that I owe Shimon within a month, then you can return the star back to Shimon, and I'll take upon, you know what, I'm going to be meichel on the original 50 that I gave. That's going to be, it'll be treated as a gift to Shimon, and Shimon can go and be goiva the whole $100 from me. For Amrulai, that's what Reuven said. He said to the shlish, he said to Levi, you can return the star if I don't pay within a month. He gives man v'leinos, and then of course the time came, and things that his trip to Vegas was not as productive as Reuven thought it was going to be. Rabbi Yossi says at that point, like they agreed, Levi can give the star to Shimon, and Shimon can get his $100. He'll end up with $150. Yehuda says he can't get.
Crazy case.
Why is it so crazy?
There's no ribbis there?
Ribbis. It's not. So like I said, that's why I phrased it that it's going to be a matana. The original money that he gave him is a matana, not part of the loan.
The matana with the tonight.
It will if I don't pay it on time, then that original money will be a matana, and the loan will stay as it is.
Sorry, that's my question. Is it verbal? Is it verbal?
No, he gave physically. He said,
right. But
Shimon handed over the star to Levi.
Is over verbal if Shimon doesn't return it within the certain time.
If Reuven doesn't pay back Shimon within that time, then Levi gives the star back to Shimon, and he could be going for the whole star.
So that's a verbal. There's no written part of that component of that.
Maybe there's a star in it.
It's formalized. So it's
yeah. Who don't you trust here?
No
who don't you trust?
No Valpeh.
Hold on. It's not the halva. This is the Shimon. I understand. Levi's holding a star that says that Reuven owes Shimon money, so it's no use to Levi. That was with the star, right? This is the star. The money. What you're talking about when the $50 you're saying was a bit. Yeah.
The question. The money was originally halva. You can't switch that into matana.
It's not. He's not switching it. He's saying this has nothing to do with the halva. This is a gift, unrelated gift. If he doesn't pay on time, it becomes a gift. You bother. You're right. You're right that in substance it's a little bit like ribbis. He's basically saying if I don't pay at this time, then you're going to benefit an extra $50. But as we've often seen, ribbis has to be that it's it's dependent on the loan, and here it's sort of divorced from the loan. It's separate. He wasn't obligated at the beginning when he made the loan. So yeah. So my commitment. What's the machlokes over here? Whether you hand over. Why shouldn't you have to hand over the star? That was the original agreement. Now why are we backing away from what the agreement was? The question is that this Reuven, who said, if I don't pay in a month, that you should give back the star and he could be over the whole star from me, he never believed it was going to happen. So it's an asmachta. He's saying he's obligating himself. He never believed it would happen, so he didn't really mean it. So he says, even so, an asmachta is kind. Yehuda said you can't return it because Reuven never really meant it. It wasn't something like we said, right? The typical case of asmachta, where someone says, my horse doesn't win. If my horse doesn't win the race, I'll pay you $100. We bet. I'll bet you $100 my horse is going to win. And then his horse loses, and he's shocked. And he never really meant to give him the $100. He never thought his horse would lose. Amar Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravu, Amar Rav, Allah Rabbi Yossi. Halacha is like Rabbi Yossi that smachta is kanya. He also kamei de Rav Ami, Amulhu b'chemiyachash Rabbi Yochanan Melamdia, Halacha Rabbi Yossi, Ani Ma'aseh. Rav Ami says, listen, to me, I think the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that smachta is like kanya. But Rabbi Yochanan has said that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, and I can't argue on Rabbi Yochanan, who's my Rebbe. But however, the bottom line is, even though Rabbi Ami couldn't argue on Rabbi Yochanan, ain't halacha Rabbi Yossi. The Maisa, we don't pass like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Ami was constrained from arguing with his Rebbe, but even so, the halacha is that you cannot give back that star in our mission.
So according to Rabbi Yehuda, how much does he end up giving back? Is he still, when the time comes to repay, when he has the money, how much is he giving back?
You're saying, well, what do you do now with, he can't give back the star, so I guess he waits until the Reuven pays the other $50 and then gives it back. Even though Reuven said you can give it back after this time, he just holds on to it until Reuven pays the full amount, and then he gives it back. No, then he gives it to Reuven. Right, he doesn't give it. He never gives it to Shimon. Zok the Mishnah. Misha nimchak shtar chayv. Someone who had a shtar chayv, right? Reuven borrowed money from Shimon, and he gave Shimon a shtar chayv, saying that Reuven owes me $100, but it got ruined. It was sitting in his. I have many times. I have probably in my wallet right now a bunch of checks from people. I always ask for a post-dated check when I lend people money, and it sits in your wallet for usually for 5-10 years. They don't pay, and I told you many times, when you lend money, you have to assume it's not going to get paid back. But after a while, it gets rubbed out. Sitting in your wallet, it gets rubbed out, so you don't have the star anymore. My middle of Adim, you have to. So the lender wants to. He says, I don't want to lose my ability to be given my star. So what does he do? He gets Adim, who saw the original writing of the star, maybe the Adim who signed on the star. Bezdin, they come to Bezdin, and the Bezdin certifies on the basis of these Adim what it said in the star. And it say, Ish Pliny, Ben Pliny, in this case, Ruvain, Nimchak Shtari, he had a star that got erased, B'yaim Pliny, on this and this such and such day, Pliny Adim, and these are the Adim that saw it. Pliny Adim, and these are the Adim that were written on the star. So you write basically what it said in the star. Bezdin writes a new star saying that this is what was written in the star. So then when he wants to later be gaiva, he can say, listen, I don't have the original star. It's not readable, but I have Adam that testify. Tanarabon, Ezi Kiyumai. We know that a star has to be Makoyim. You have to certify who were the Adam. But l'chayra, in this star that got erased, we don't have the signatures of the Adam that you can have people come back and certify what the signatures were. That these signatures are the signatures of Shimon and Levi, who are the Adam. So what does Bezdin do? They write, but most of Tlosahavina, we were sitting as a Bezdin of 3, Anu Pliny, us 3 Dayanim. Hoitzi Pliny ben Pliny star Mochak Lefanenu, and he produced an erased star in front of us. B'yayim Pliny Adam. And these were the Adam. That's the Nusach they write. Vim Kosav boy, who's Kakanu Leidusan shel Adam, V'nimtzas Leidusan Mekuvenes, and if they add on and they require the Adis of the Adam, of who the Adam were, and we found that it was correct, meaning that Adam came and testified that there was a signature on the star, and the signatures matched those of Shimon and Levi, whose names were on the star. So basically, you have Adam come and testify to the prior. They had to testify about the prior kiyum. It means they're Mekayim the star, even though there's no star now, and they can't point at it and say that we see that this signature is the same as Shimon and Levi's signature, but they say we saw it before it was Nimchak, and we know that that was their signature, or that we saw them sign it. In that case, Goiva, they don't have to go and bring new Eidim. But if you don't have this extra clause from the Bezdin saying what that the chasimus, that the signatures are Mekoyim, Sarach Lahevi Raya. You're going to have to bring a Raya to that. You're going to have to basically bring new Eidim to testify. So Nikra Pasol Niskara Kosher. If you have a star that, if someone tries to produce a star chayv and it's ripped in a certain one way, it's Pasol, but if it got ripped, then it's kosher. The Gemara is going to explain what that means. What's the distinction? Nimchak or nishtamet or nitashtesh. If it's erased or it got discolored, in rishumoy nikar kosher. If you could still see underneath the erasure or underneath the discoloration what the words were, then it's still kosher. It doesn't make a difference. So what is the one type of ripping that's kosher, one that's puzzle? We heard the nikra karashal bezdin. Nikra means that it was ripped by Bezdin. The Bezdin wanted to puzzle the star, so they ripped it in a specific way that we're going to explain. This karasha ain't a shel Bezdin. But if it's stama, it got ripped. If the corner got ripped when you're taking it out, that doesn't puzzle. Hechidami karashal Bezdin. What does it mean that Bezdin ripped it? Amar Yehuda, makam edim, makam hazman, makam ha'tayref. If Bezdin rips it, they make sure to rip through every single part, every substantive part of the star. They'll rip through where the Edom signed and the Zman and the entire description, summary of the transaction. Abaya says the way that you could tell that Bezdin ripped it is if it was ripped up and down in a up and down manner. That's clearly that Bezdin was trying to say this is not a valid star. Okay, we'll stop over here. We'll continue tomorrow. We have the luxury of being a little ahead.